Hi guys, happy Friday. We made it. We made it all the way through the week. So glad. I am so glad. I am so ready for the weekend, and I know that you guys out there are probably pretty excited about the weekend too. Just depending on what kind of week you've had, maybe not, right? So, how we doing? Hi guys. Just got to take a second. I was a little late. I'm usually I try to be right on time, but I was a little bit late because I was feeling a sneeze and it just wouldn't come. So if I randomly have to sneeze in the middle of this, my sincere apologies. Hi Eve. Hey Sue. Hey Cindy. So good to see you guys. Miss Anita. Anita says good evening. Anita, where are you, my friend? I know you've told me before, so please don't be offended that I have forgotten. I'm really bad about that. But where are you? Because it is midday here. It's about 1 o'clock Eastern time, a little after 1, not by much. But Tina says, happy rainy Friday. Happy rainy Friday. Send some of that rain my way. I would love to have some rain. My allergies are really, really bothering me, and I think some heavy rain would do us some good. Hey Joan, stupid Facebook isn't letting me see the video has started. I am so sorry, Joan. So let me tell you, Anita's in South Africa. Oh, that's amazing. That's so awesome. So Facebook is that way with me too. And that actually brings up a really good point for me to talk about here really quickly. A couple of things actually. So talking about what Joan was talking about, where Facebook doesn't give her the notifications. So I want you guys to know that Facebook also does not give me notifications, which drives me absolutely crazy. And I have adjusted every single setting that you can possibly think of. I have looked online. I have looked on forums. I've done everything you can think of to try to get my Facebook settings, or to set the settings so that my notifications work. If anybody out there has the magic touch, please let me know, because I've done everything. This has been like an ongoing issue with me for months now. I just cannot seem to get the notifications to come through. So speaking of, hi Miss Ramona, glad to see you. Joan says, I can see you, it just isn't notifying me. That's what my problem is, right? None of my notifications work. So when you send me messages, Facebook Messenger only gives me a notification like once every 2 or 3 times. I have to just literally go and check it to make sure that there aren't any messages there. Email notifications like through Facebook and through the Sarah Ellis Designs page, I never get notifications for those. And now we have the new Sarah Ellis Designs community group, and I'm not getting notifications for that either. So when people are trying to become members of the group, or if somebody posts something, I have it actually set so that it's supposed to tell me every single time somebody posts something in the group. Never tells me anything. So thanks, Facebook. What is wrong with you, Facebook? Why do you have these settings if they do not work? Drives me absolutely crazy. So I just want everybody to know that I'm not intentionally ignoring you guys, or, not participating in the group and things like that. It's just that Facebook I don't know. It just doesn't like me. It is always a struggle with Facebook. So that also brings me to something that I wanted to mention, because we didn't have a Facebook Live last week. I needed to take a personal day last week. I was very, very overwhelmed, but much better this week. And I've got a great project for you guys. But before we get into that, I did want to mention that we do have a new Facebook group, the Sarah Ellis Designs Community. It is a Facebook group where everyone is welcome to come and join. Just be sure that if you join, or you've got a friend who has tried to join, make sure that you answer the group questions, right? I think there's 2 questions that you have to answer in order to get your acceptance into the group. And the reason that those questions are there is to make sure that we don't get trolls and spammers, because Facebook is full of those, and bots. So the acceptance questions are really, really important, particularly for people who have their accounts hacked. And that does happen as well. So it'll look like a person that you might know, but when you go to check that person's profile, it's actually a fake profile that a bot has put together, or a scammer of some variety has put together. So we're trying to be diligent. If you were denied from the group, it may be because you didn't answer the questions. So please reapply. and just make sure that you are answering the questions. And we want you to come and be part of our community. The intentions of the Sarah Ellis Designs community group is I want there to be a place for you guys to, of course, spend some time together and hang out with each other because we have an amazing community. I also want it to be a place where you can post whatever you want as far as your jewelry designs are concerned. You know, anything that you have put together that you think is beautiful and fun and might inspire somebody else, post it. We want to see your jewelry. I want to see everything that you're making because I get my inspiration from you guys, so I know that you get your inspiration from each other, right? I spend a lot of time on Pinterest and looking at other designs and kinds of jewelry and styles, and I love that. And so that's kind of where I was going with the whole group. I want you to be able to post anything there, you know, anything that you make. It doesn't have to be based on a design that I've done. It doesn't necessarily have to have Jesse James beads. It doesn't necessarily have to have Bead products in it, right? I mean, if it does, that's fantastic. That is great. But if it doesn't, that's okay, because I want you to be able to show your hard work, right? And show what you're working on. And I also want it to be a place where you can ask questions. That was number 2. And that actually came up this morning. I was speaking with a friend of mine, and I want the Sarah Ellis Designs community to be a place where, number 1, you can get to me quickly, which even though the Facebook notifications are not working, I try. I try to be there, right? Post a question. There are no dumb questions, right? There are no stupid questions. If you have a question about jewelry making or a technique or a jewelry style or anything like that, post it in the group. There is so much information between all of us, right? We're all jewelry makers and creative types. And if you've got a question, post it. Post it in there. We're going to come and answer it for you. We are going to do our best. I will do my best to help you. And if I can't figure out the answer, I don't know the answer, I will find the answer for you. So don't hesitate. Don't think that your questions are dumb. Don't think that, you know, don't be intimidated or embarrassed to ask anything in that group. Okay. That's what I want it to be. Education and jewelry making technique is very, very high on my list. I do have my own style, and sometimes I throw techniques out the window. We called it something, Technique 99. Was that what it was? I can't remember. I need to write these things down. But I was, you know, when I came to Bead, product education and jewelry education was huge. And I'm such a nerd. Like, I memorized the entire Bead catalog. Like, I can tell you the product numbers. It's absolutely ridiculous. And education was huge. And I learned so much from Meredith and from Wyatt and from Juliana and all the other designers there that's a huge part of who I am. So I'm creative and I can freestyle all day long, but if you've got a question, I can probably help you find the answer. So please join the group if you haven't. There are no dumb questions. Post them. I don't care what they are. Even if you just want to see a wrapped loop 75 times, I will do it for you because I know that that's important to you, right? And it's important to all of us. And if you've got a question, chances are somebody else out there has a question as well. Okay, so got all of that out of the way. I feel like there was something else I needed to tell you. Oh, there is something else that I need to tell you. So there's another Maker Mystery that is happening tomorrow night. It will premiere at 8 p.m. over on the YouTube channel. So if you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please take a second and do that as well. Yvette says, you're the expert. You guys, Yvette, Yvette's the expert. Yvette is she's my go-to boss at Bead. So for her to say that, that's like, gives me a little flutterbies there. I don't know about being an expert, but I try. I really do try. And, you know, education and technique is really, really important to me. So as you can tell her, I wouldn't teach how to do things, right? So, all right, something else. Oh, everybody's saying happy birthday to Sarah James. Yes, Sarah James's birthday is on Sunday. So happy birthday to my dear friend. I hope she has a wonderful birthday. I know she is actually traveling And I wish her safe travels and a very, very happy birthday. Also, speaking of her birthday, that means that there's a sale going on the Jesse James Beads website. So if you want to celebrate Sarah's birthday with her, take advantage of the birthday sale that is going on the Jesse James Beads website. I forgot to pull up my computer here. So it's 34% off and you use the code birthday. So go over to the website, check that out, take advantage of that sale. I love it that we celebrate her birthday with coupon codes. That's fantastic. I love that. Okay, so Maker Mystery. I totally got off key there. The Maker Mystery is coming out, and there will be one more Maker Mystery after this one. I'm not sure that the series is going to continue past that, just because I have a lot on my plate. However, I am going to continue to put projects on the YouTube channel. So if you've got project requests, please let me know what those are. Send me messages. I want to know. I want to make projects for you guys. Oh my gosh, Jen says we already had 7 members join the group since the show started. Hooray! Yes, the more the merrier. Come join and hang out with us. That's where our giveaways and our drawings are going to happen, you guys. Okay, so I got off track again, you guys, talking about the whole Maker Mystery. So I've actually been tossing around the idea with some coaxing from Sarah James that perhaps the last Maker Mystery, which is actually scheduled for October 31st, which is Halloween. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move that back to October 30th. So it will be a Friday. And instead of our 1 p.m. Facebook Live, we're going to do a nighttime Facebook Live that night and do that Maker Mystery as a live. The one that's coming out tomorrow will be pre-recorded just like the others have been, but I think that just for our Halloween celebration that we'll do a nighttime Maker Mystery and it will be a live. So you guys let me know, okay, how you feel about that. If that is a stinky idea, let me know and I will, I'll take that back. Also, one last thing. I know I've got so much to talk about. I'm so sorry. We are going to get to this project, but one last thing is I have an unboxing and a taste testing coming up. You guys seem to love those, which I think is hysterical. So we're going to have a snack shenanigans, but I'm going to wait and do the snack shenanigans on Monday afternoon. Okay. So I have a regular scheduled live at 7 p.m. on Mondays with Jesse James Beads. This will be early in the afternoon. I'll make an event and I'll post it so that nobody misses it and you guys can come and watch it. I've got Japanese snacks and part of the reason that I'm waiting is because I've got something on order that hasn't quite made it here yet. And I'm hoping that it'll be here before then. So we'll do our snack shenanigans on Monday afternoon if you are interested in those. Okay. All right, now let's get to this project. So this week on the Jesse James Beads website, the Market Fresh Minis are back in stock. Some of you have seen the Market Fresh Minis before. Some of you, this is your first time ever seeing the Market Fresh Minis, and they are mini, right? They're these little mini bead mixes, but they are packed full of amazing beads, and the colors are amazing. I tried to count. I don't remember how many there were. I know there's more than 10. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I believe there are 14 of these. So there's a little mini mix color for absolutely everybody. And I'm in love with like all of them, but there are about 5 that just have my heart. And today we're going to use one of those. And that is the orange bell pepper. This one is so pretty and I couldn't not use it for a project. So I'm going to use the orange one today. And then I'm going to use a different color on Monday for our Maker Monday with Jesse James Beads. And we are going to be creating a cool wire pair of earrings. And some of you have already seen the teaser picture, but for those of you who haven't, this is what we're doing today. I know that it might look a little hard, but I promise it's not. It's just going to take a little bit of patience. So we are going to get started with that. Also want you to know that I do have an affiliate link that you are more than welcome to use if you would like to. Do not feel like you are obligated to use my affiliate links for anything. However, if you use my affiliate link to do your shopping on the Jesse James Beads website, I do get a small commission for the purchases, or from the purchases rather, that you make, and that small commission I put back into our group and into the Sarah Ellis Designs page so that I can continue to put together these fun projects for you guys. As a matter of fact, just so that you know that that money actually does get spent on that, I actually just I just ordered a brand new microphone, and I wouldn't have been able to do that had it not been for the commissions that I get from the sales from you guys. So a big thank you to you all for that. I appreciate it. Joan is going to pop a link into the comments and pin it so that if you want to use my link, you absolutely can. It is also in the description of this Facebook event, and I will post it again after the video if you want to use my link, but you don't have to, okay? All right, so enough talking. Whew. Let's get down to it and let's put together some fun earrings, shall we? All right, guys. Let's do this thing. Okay, so first and foremost, let's take another close-up look at the earring that we're going to make. So we're going to be using some 24 gauge wire and a couple of head pins, and that's pretty much it, an ear wire. So this is not, this doesn't take a whole lot of materials to create, and the beads are really the star of the show here. There is one 4mm jump ring in here, but that's pretty much the extent of it. We're just going to use some 24 gauge German style wire in gold color, but feel free to use whatever color you want to. I do really recommend the 24 gauge wire for this though, because the 22 gauge, at least until you are kind of seasoned in this kind of wire work, it can be a little bit tricky. So go with the 24 if you're just starting out. All right, now let's dump out these gorgeous beads and take a look at them, and then we will get started. So there are a couple of the beads missing because obviously I've got an earring that is already made, but I did want to take a look at this gorgeous mix because it's so dang pretty, and I forgot to change my stupid blue plate for a white one. So I don't know how pretty they look against that blue. It's kind of a weird gray blue, but I do want, oh, Juliana's here. Hey Jules, good morning, my friend. So I wanted you guys to take a look. Oh, there's a little rogue piece of wire in there, at all of the colors here. So even if you're not a fan of the color orange, and I have a hard time using orange, no jokes about that. That is very serious, but it's not all just like tangerine orange. There's a whole lot of other things going on here. There are these deep kind of fall orange colors in here. There's some that are on the peachy side, and then this orange is the one that I'm obsessed with. I don't even know what you call this, but this is the one that I covet. I'll show you. I think I've shown this to you guys before, but every time I find beads that color, I gather them up. Look at my collection. Like, I have this whole, like, that color. I don't know why, and there's a whole bag of rondelles, but I'm obsessed with that color. I have no idea why. It's just the weirdest shade of orange that I am so obsessed with. So I've got that one, and then I have a whole nother one on the bottom. So yeah, I'm seriously obsessed. So I could not use this gorgeous orange mix to make a cool pair of earrings. All right, so that's what we're going to do today, and we are going to be using this guy as the center of our earring. So I'm going to go ahead and sit him right here, and then we're also going to use a little bit of a mix as far as the beads on the side. So I'm going to use one of these rondelles. I'm going to use two of these really cute kind of tangerine colored rondelles, and then these glass beads that are also in that kind of funny orange color that I am so obsessed with. Where's the other one? Come here, please. All right, there we go. So that one has almost like a pink. Do you see that kind of magenta shift in that fire polish that's there? So pretty. I don't know. I'm a sucker for this color. So those are going to be the beads that we use in our project. And so that I do not lose them, I'm going to put them right here. And then we're also going to use one of these cool little peachy drops on the bottom, as well as these little guys that I thought were super cool just because they are shaped so differently. They're not quite square. They are geometric. They have that flat table cut on them, but they also have like that frost AB finish. I don't know. They're really cool. So those are the beads that we're going to use. And just take a look here. You're going to see that I still have a ton left over. So even after we've created these earrings, I've got a ton of beads left over to make like a matching necklace or to make a matching bracelet or more, right, to go with this. Okay, so as far as the wire is concerned, we're going to be using some of the, like I said before, 24 gauge, and I'm using the German style wire. Now, unfortunately, I do not have an actual measurement on this wire for you guys. That was my bad. I apologize for not having a measurement for you guys. I'm going to cut myself quite a bit of this though. So I'm going to give myself like about 3 feet, maybe a little bit more. Just want to be sure that I have enough. I'm sure that that's overkill, but you guys know how I am. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to create a wrapped loop, but our wrapped loop, let me show you the back of this so that you can kind of see. Our wrapped loop needs several wraps. We need a large amount of space between the top of the bead and the loop so that we can wrap around those, okay? So we're going to need about 1/4 of an inch of wire wrapping. And so to do that, I'm going to come onto the wire with my chain nose pliers. And normally when I'm making just a regular wrapped loop, I will only come down about 1.5 to 2 inches, just depending. But since we need a little bit more, I'm going to come down a good 2 inches, maybe closer to 3 inches here, okay? And give our wire a bend and then just kind of straighten everything out. Whoops. And now I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers. We're going to treat this the exact same way that we would a regular wrapped loop. I'm grabbing the wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers. I'm going to take the short end of the wire and go up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Notice I'm not moving the tool, I'm only moving the wire. Okay, but now I need to get that short piece of the wire over here to the other side, and I can't because the bottom barrel of my round nose pliers is in the way. So I'm just going to roll the pliers out of the way, right? We go from this position to this position. This opens up that space so that I can take that wire over to the other side. Okay, all right, now I am going to switch hands and I'm going to wire wrap. I'm going to do probably about 9 wire wraps. That's going to give me about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So those are all the wire wraps that we need, which might not be 1/4 of an inch, might be just slightly under. Jane says, you should love orange since we live in big orange country. Yeah, the big orange is definitely not my favorite shade of orange. I know people really get kind of cranky about their big orange, but yeah, that's definitely not my shade of orange for sure. I have to be careful. My son is a UT student, so I have to do my motherly support duties, but it's not a good orange for me. All right, so now we are going to thread our bead on. Remember, we still have all of this length of wire here, so we've got a lot of extra wire that we kind of have to manage as we are creating this project, okay? And that can be a little bit tricky if you're not used to working with long lengths of wire, particularly the small gauges, because they do have a tendency to kink on you and create some bends. So it can be a little bit frustrating, but you guys know what I say, give yourself grace, just be patient, and it will eventually get easier. Okay, so there's our bead, there's our wire wrapping. Now I need to do a wire wrapped loop here on the other end, but I need to take into consideration all of the room for the wire wraps. You can do this 2 ways. You can do this the right way. Oh, you gotta go, Jules, I love you. You can do this 2 different ways. You can use a ruler, which is the right way, right? Measure exactly your little section here, and then measure exactly here and place your pliers down here. That would be the correct way. I always do the incorrect way, and I just eyeball it. And sometimes that gets me in trouble because I end up with either too much room or not enough room. But I'm going to eyeball it just because that's just kind of the way that I do things. However, I will give you a little hint of advice here. If you decide that you want to eyeball this instead of measuring with the ruler, go shorter than what you actually think it needs to be. For one thing, you got to take into consideration the width of the pliers. Okay, so that's going to take away from the area as well. But yeah, definitely go shorter than what you think you're going to need, and then make your bend. Okay. Now, I'm sure that's a little bit long. If it is a little bit long, it's only a little bit long. Yeah, I'm living dangerously. If it's a little bit longer, it's only a little bit off. So maybe 1 or 2 wraps. That's why I always just kind of eyeball it and see what happens. All right, so same thing. We're going to do our wire wrapped loop. So we're going up and over the top barrel of the pliers. We are going to roll the pliers out of the way so we can take that wire over to the other side, right? And now I'm going to wire wrap in that space. And just to make myself feel better, because I did not actually measure, I'm not going to count. Because there's nothing more discouraging than like knowing you have 8 wire wraps here, and then you come over here and you start to count your wire wraps and you end up with like 12. So just to save myself that heartache and imagine that I did things perfectly and I didn't need a ruler, I'm just going to not count. Also, you don't have to make those wraps super perfect or neat or in a line. You can see mine have some spaces in them, and that's okay because we're gonna cover all of these up. Angie says, are we doing a herringbone wrap? We absolutely are, but we're doing it with a little bit of a twist today. So yeah, we're going to start out with the herringbone. We're going to go around our bead 3 times, and then we're going to add beads to our herringbone wrap, which I think is a lot of fun. Okay, so now this is what we've got. Our wire is coming out. For me, it's coming out to the left of the bead, and it is also coming, I want to be sure that I know the path of that wire. So it is wrapping from the back around the front of the bead. You see what I mean? So the wire path is this. It's coming out the front of the bead. So you can actually see that wire. We're on the front side of our bead. Okay. That's really, really important. You always want to keep this on the front side of your bead. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take advantage of this flat surface that is along the side of this bead. If you have never done herringbone wire wrapping before and the only bead that you've got is round, you can still do this. Sherry says it was 8. Awesome. You might be just telling me a story so that I feel okay about it, but I will believe you, Miss Sherry. So if you are doing this with a bead that is round and it doesn't have this flat surface on it, you can still do this exact same technique, but I find that it is helpful, particularly when you're very first starting out with herringbone wire wrap, to use a bead that might have a flat surface on it, right? So what we want is we want to just guide that wire along that surface or down the side of our bead, and we want it to lay right up against. Notice how there's not any space between the wire and the bead. They are right next to each other. Okay, I'm going to come all the way down here to the bottom, and I want that wire to go in front of all of the wire wraps down here on the bottom. Okay, then I want to hold everything in place here. I want to hold and wire wrap around the wire wraps and then back out the front. Okay, so that wire is always coming to the front of the bead. So I just wrapped around the wire wraps that are already there and then right back out. We're on the front side of our bead. See the wire? Okay. Now, Wanda says that's a great bead herringbone. It absolutely is. All right, now we're going to repeat that. We're going to guide the wire up the side of the bead along that edge. Right back up here to the top, making sure that wire is going in front of all of the wire wraps, and we're going to wrap around them once. So in the front of the wire wraps, wrap around, back out in front of all of the wire wraps. Okay, so now we've got a wrap on either side of our bead, right? Now we're going to do this 2 more times so that there is a total of 3 wraps around our bead. So this time I want to go behind that first wrap that I made. So I want to lay that wire right behind the first wire, up here to the wire wraps, wrap around. Okay, so you can see the placement there. We went around and back out, so we're still on the front side of the bead. Catherine says, what gauge wire? I'm using 24 gauge German style for this. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going behind the last wire wrap that I just made, up the bead, up here to the wire wraps. The wire is going in front of the wire wraps, wrapping around and then back out. Okay, so now we've got two, and you can see where that kind of fishtail herringbone look is starting to form on either side of the bead, right? Okay, we're going to do that one more time. Up the side, going behind the second wrap. You always want your herringbone wraps to go behind the next one, okay? Up to the front, in front of the wire wraps, around, back out the front. Same thing, other side, behind the two that are there, up to the wire wraps, around, and out. All right, so now this is what we've got, right? And now we're going to add some beads to this. You are so welcome, Catherine. Okay, now if you don't want to add the beads to this, you don't have to, right? You can totally skip it and just continue doing your herringbone wire wrapping, and it's going to look beautiful. But if you want to take your herringbone wire wrapping to a whole nother place, we're going to add those beads. And you can see there are 5 beads. They're only on one side. Should you want to do this on both sides, you absolutely can. It looks really cool, right? But this part can be a little tricky, so you got to go slow, okay? Give yourself grace, be patient, and if it turns into a hot mess, pull it all off of there and start over again. It's just wire. It's just wire. We can always cut off and go again, right? And luckily you're only doing 3 wire wraps or 3 of the herringbone passes. So you haven't really committed to like a huge piece yet, right? Okay, so what we want to do is we want to take the end of our wire and we want to add our first bead, which is going to be this little tangerine rondelle. Okay, I'm going to thread that on to our wire and I'm going to drop it down here. Whoa. Gonna drop it down here to where all of our work is. Okay, now there's a couple of tricks to this. The first bead is always kind of the most difficult because you have to give yourself a little bit of space between the bead and the wire wraps here. You don't want to start right up against the wraps, right? You want to kind of move him out just a tiny, tiny bit. Oh, thank you, Wanda. I'm so glad. I love herringbone. It's my absolute favorite. That's why we do it a lot here. So if you guys are like so over the herringbone, I am so sorry. I just love it so, so much. It's so versatile. So many cool things you can do with it. Okay, so you want to give yourself a little bit of space. The second thing is that you always want your wraps, because we're actually going to wrap around this bead more than once, okay? You want that wraparound to go clockwise every time. Don't go counterclockwise. It's going to make it really, really difficult. You want to continuously go clockwise every bead that we add, okay? So I'm going to hold that bead right there, okay? Giving myself just the tiniest little bit of space. Then I'm going to go ahead and bend that wire just to kind of mark and make sure that bead doesn't go anywhere, right? And you can see now I'm going to go in a clockwise direction. I'm going to, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the iPad. I'm going to wrap around the outer surface of the bead, and I turn the entire project in my hand because it's just easier for me to do this, okay? So you can see wrapping around. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going around the bead. I went all the way around once. I'm going to go around a second time halfway, okay? So I'm going to kind of stop after I've been around the bead 1.5 times. So my wire is kind of coming out this way now. It's coming out the bottom of the bead, right? And I didn't wrap that bead really, really tight. You don't have to. This is just decorative more than anything. It is helping to keep the bead in place, but this wraparound, it does not have to be perfectly centered on the edges of the bead or anything like that, okay? It just, and you can even see, like, my wrap is more towards the front of the bead. It's just a beautiful accent here, okay? Now we're ready to add our next bead. So the next little bead that we're going to add is one of these faceted glass with that kind of magenta flash to it. So pretty. Okay, I'm going to drop that down. Okay, now holding it in place the right direction before I start turning it around. Okay, yeah, ringing the bell. We're going to ring the bell with all this extra wire. So again, we want to start, but we want there to be a tiny bit of space. Don't make it a huge amount of space, just a little bit of space between the beads, okay? So there's like a little smidgen of wire, right? Hold that bead in place and then just go ahead and bend that wire to kind of lock that bead in place so that it doesn't sneak down the wire on you, okay? Now, same thing. We're going to wrap around the outer edge of the bead all the way around once, okay? So I've gone all the way around the bead one time. Now, this part, now that we're on the second bead, is a little bit different. We're gonna wrap halfway around the bead, okay, until we get to that wire. See the wire that's joining those two beads together? I want to very carefully take this wire and wrap it around that wire one time, just like that. That really locked that bead into place and is really just another kind of configuration of the herringbone, because you wrap around the bead and then you wrap around the base. So if you look at it that way, it might be a little bit easier to understand, right? But that's what we've got. Okay, now we're ready to add the next bead. Our wire is coming out through the bottom here of the last bead that we added. I'm going to add our middle bead, which is just a little bit larger rondelle. I'm going to drop that down. Okay. Again, holding it in the direction that I want to kind of get a good idea, right? And I want to place that bead. Notice how it's not like right up against the next bead. It's over just a tiny, tiny bit, just a little smidgen. Okay. Bend the wire. Whoops, that was a little bit too far, I believe. Bend the wire to lock that bead in that spot so it doesn't creep down the wire. Okay. Now, clockwise around the bead one entire time. Okay. And it doesn't matter if you go in front of or behind that wrap that's there. Okay. Halfway around. Okay. And we're up here to where the wire is connecting those two beads. You want to take that wire and wrap it around that wire and back out the bottom. I know that might seem a little bit confusing at first, but maybe it'll help for you to kind of look at the back of it. I'm not sure. But we're just connecting the beads together, and that wrap around of the straight section between the beads is really just kind of keeping everything in place, right? It doesn't even have to be a pretty wrap, because honestly, you're not going to see it once we kind of squish all of our beads down into the spot where we want them to go. But it really does hold everything. You can do this without that wrap in the middle between each bead, but I find that the beads do tend to travel on you, and so just to keep them from doing that, I like to do the wrap in between. Okay, but I've seen this technique done with people who don't do the wrap in between. Totally fine. Okay, all right, now we're ready to add bead number 4. We're just going to drop it on, bring it right down here. Okay, kind of looking at things this way, and you can pull this out away if you need to, if that makes it easier for you, right? You don't have to feel like you have to work in this tiny little space. Pull this out because it's just wire. We can put it back, you know, we can always put it back. All right, so placing that bead where I want it to be, right? Holding onto it and just kind of going ahead, bend that wire so that bead's not going to go anywhere. Okay, now we're going to go clockwise with our wire all the way around that bead one entire time. And again, I'm turning the whole thing in my hands, just easier. Okay, halfway around and I'm back to that wire that's connecting the two beads together. So I'm going to wrap around that wire one time. Okay, and then kind of guide the wire out around the bottom of the bead. Okay, now we've only got one more bead to add. And then we're going to attach all of this, and you'll see how it kind of puts everything in its spot. You can kind of wiggle it a little bit, give it a good zhuzh, if you will. All right, last bead on this side. If you want to do both sides, you totally can. Doing the other side is the exact same technique. You're just going, you know, maybe from the bottom to the top, right? There's the bead, finding the place that I want that bead to be, holding it there, bending the wire, make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, now I'm going to take that wire and wrap it all the way around that bead one entire time. When I get halfway around, so I've gone once and then halfway, I'm up to that wire that's connecting the two beads, and I'm going to wrap around it. Now you notice I'm having to kind of maneuver this guy out of the way, and that's okay. That's why this 24 gauge wire is so easy to use in this, because it's so forgiving. You just move it out of the way and it springs right back where you want it to be. Okay, all right, so we've got all of our beads added. Doesn't look like much at the moment, right? You can take a look at the back to kind of see how everything is connected again. And if you need to see this in the replay or you've got questions, totally reach out to me, right? Ask your questions. If you get stuck, let me know. Okay. And now we're going to take this bottom wire and we're going to treat it the same way we would if there weren't any beads on it at all, just like if we were herringbone wire wrapping. I'm going to kind of place the beads where I want them to go, right? But I'm going to be able to adjust that a little bit, bringing the wire to the front of all of these wire wraps down here, and I'm going to wire wrap around the wire wraps that are already there to lock those beads in place. Now you can see there's some space there. It's a little too far out. So I'm just going to undo the wrap. Okay, and I'm going to do it again. This time I'm going to kind of pull a little bit tighter, a little bit closer. This last little wire wrap can be tricky just because you're trying to work behind a bead, right? And I'm going to wrap around more than once. I'm going to go around twice, I think, if I can get in there. So I'm just going to kind of bend that bead out of the way. Wrap around. Okay. Now I'm going to cut this wire off, and you'll notice I still have a ton of wire left over. That's okay, because we're going to use it for the other bead. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this back around. That's the back. Turn it back around here to the front, and now I can really adjust all of it. I can put those beads where I want them to be. I can bend the wire a little bit, you know, and really place those beads as exactly where I want them to go with just a little nudge, right? The 24 gauge wire is so easy to use because it's so soft. It holds its shape and it's perfect in all of that, but it lends itself to, you know, really setting those beads in place. All right, so this part is done, right? This part is ready to go. Now, I do want to mention something, and that is you can see where they are slightly different, right? And I'm okay with that, right? They don't have to be twins. They are slightly different. But there is one thing about this one that bothers me just a little bit, and it's that space right there. You can see where the wire wraps, they go to the singular wire wrap. It's not nearly as chunky. If you don't like that, you can totally fake it. Just cut yourself a little bit of the 24 gauge wire and wrap over those wraps a couple of times and just trim off. Like it's not serving any purpose other than just kind of balancing out the look more than anything. See, I just kind of wrapped around that with the wire, and then I'm just going to trim this off. So I just covered those up. That's all. It didn't do anything structurally. It's just a visual thing for me. And if it doesn't bother you, then don't worry about it. But see, it's a little bit more balanced. Okay, so that's the main part of the earring, right? But we want to go extra because I'm always go big or go home. Got to have the dangles, got to have the movement. So we are going to use 2 head pins for these little guys. And I'm going to use some of our leftover 24 gauge wire for our drop. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the drop first. So let me just kind of set these out of the way. All right, so I just have this leftover piece, and I'm going to thread our drop on, and I'm going to bring that down just a little ways. Give yourself just a little bit. I mean, you don't have to have a ton of this. You're just going to do a wrapped loop on the top, but I like to give myself a little extra. Now, I'm going to take the wire and bend it, kind of like what we were doing with the beads on the edge, okay? Just kind of locking that bead in place. I'm going to guide the wire up the side of the bead in front of the wire here, okay? And I'm going to wrap around that straight wire, just like so. So that's just kind of locked our bead onto the wire, okay? Now I'm going to take all this extra wire and I'm just going to start spinning it around and covering up the top of our bead. You can do as little or as much of this as you want. You don't have to do any of it if you don't want to, right? You could just as easily put this on a head pin and be done with it. But I feel like it's kind of fun to have that extra wire, right? Okay. Now I've gone around as many times as I want to go around, so I'm going to guide it up across all of those wraps and then wrap around that straight wire one more time. Kind of push that down with my fingers a little bit, just like so. Now I'm going to trim this one off. And what's cool about this is that you can do messy too. You don't have to do nice and clean or anything like that, right? Okay, now I'm just going to do a wire wrapped loop at the top. So coming in with the chain nose pliers, bend that wire. I see my troublemakers, Joan, Jane, and Kathleen. What are y'all doing? What you doing? All right, so coming in with my round nose pliers, I'm going up and over the top barrel of the pliers, roll my pliers out of the way and take that on over to the other side. Now, part of the reason that I left this nice and long is because I'm going to wrap around, do my wire wraps, but then I'm also going to go back over those wire wraps too, just to kind of make that a little bit more bulky and chunky, give it that slouchy sock kind of look. You can totally do this however you want to. You don't have to do any of this part the way. Just kind of cool to have the extra little wire doodads in there, you know, all that little extra wire fun. Oh my gosh, Nicole, you are so right. Nicole says it looks like the hats I wore in the Whip It video. That's hysterical. I totally see that. Okay, so there's that guy. Now I need 2 head pins, which I forgot to grab, but I can get those right now. So I'm just going to use 2 gold head pins, and we also need a 4mm jump ring here. So there's our little jump ring. Okay. Now I'm just going to take our little beads, pop those on to our head pin, and then I'm just going to do a wrapped loop on the top here, just like we've done with all of the others, bending the wire, coming in with the round nose pliers, up and over, on over here, and then I'm going to use my pliers to do the wrapping. There's one. I'll cut them off at the same time, so we'll go ahead and do the other one. So there's that. Same thing. Up and over. You guys are so funny. Oh my gosh. Wrapping around. All right, now I'm going to come in and trim off. So there's that one. And here's the other one. Whoop, maybe. All right. Now I'm just going to put everything together. We're ready to assemble here. So I'm going to open up our little 4mm jump ring. Adjust the light, it's very shadowy. I'm so sorry. So that's next on my list. So I've got a microphone on the way, and I also need a better light set up here, you guys. So just know that if you use those affiliate links, that's what they're going towards. They're going, all of that commission goes to lights and microphones and internet connection and all of that good stuff. All right, so there's my 4mm jump ring open. I'm going to pop on our drop, and I'm going to put one of these little guys on either side. And then I want to attach this to the bottom of our earring, and yeah, I want them to go the same way. Close that back. And actually I want this bottom loop to, I want the top loop to go one way and I want the bottom loop to go the other way. So I'm gonna give this one a twist down here on the bottom. Again, it's super forgiving, the 24 gauge wire, so you can really kind of adjust. I hope you guys are just like play arguing. Because I saw somebody in caps. It was like, oh gosh, somebody's yelling. Please don't fight with each other. I love you guys. Oh goodness. All right, so there's that. And now all we got to do is add our ear wire, you guys, and we are donezo. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this one. This is a fun one where you can kind of go a million different ways with this. So we made a really cool earring out of it, but right, this could be a pendant. In fact, it's one of my favorite ways to make pendants, actually. And you could do beads on the other side, or if you didn't want to do beads that were exactly the same, you could do seed beads. You could do a couple of rows of matching seed beads over here. So you can have your big beads here, your seed beads here, or whatever you wanted to do. And you actually can build this out more. So you've got your first row of beads here. If you wanted to, you could make a second row of beads in this exact same style, right? The same technique, just building it out a little bit wider, and you can do that on either side. If you want to do that, which it looks amazing, by the way, the only thing that I would recommend is giving yourself more space here. So instead of having only about 1/4 of an inch of wire wraps, if you want to do a whole nother row or a few more rows of beads, you probably want that wire wrapping space to be more like 1/2 of an inch to an inch wide on either end, just so that you are not crowding yourself and you've got plenty of room to anchor that wire as you come around. So there you go, you guys. I hope I've given you lots of inspiration and things to think about with wire. Wire can be so much fun. You just gotta kind of give it, give it a chance and don't get frustrated with it. It's so easy to get frustrated with the wire wrapping. It's so easy to get frustrated with this technique. But I promise, if you will give it a chance and work out the herringbone wire wrapping, it really kind of opens up so many different things that you can do with wire that you never really thought of before. And you realize how easy it is to just connect things together with wire. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to use a bunch of jump rings. You don't have to have a component. You can just use the wire itself to connect beautiful beads together. All right, so those are our gorgeous earrings. I'm going to turn you around. I'm going to put them on because I can't not. And then we will get our goodbyes underway here. All right, guys. So, oh, thank you guys. Thank you. I'm so glad that you like them. I think they're fabulous and fun. That wire wrap technique is just my favorite. I mean, it looks like if I had done this in, can you imagine this in like blues and teals, would almost be like a big peacock tail, right? I mean, you could really just build it out and make it amazing. So yeah, I think they're fun. I think they're fun. If you want to see more techniques like this, could you make it the opposite side for matching your, yeah, you could. You could do it either way you wanted to. Like I could flip that, I could have flipped one of them over and they wouldn't be exactly the same, right? They would be opposites of each other. Super cool. I think they're fun. I love them. I hope you guys love them. I can totally see you guys doing crazy fun things with this technique. So I can't wait to see what you guys do with this. If you, excuse me, if you recreate this, post it on the group. If you don't recreate it and you make something fun, post that on the group. It's okay. It doesn't have to be based on something that I taught you how to do. Definitely post in the group. If you've not joined the group, come join us. It's going to be fun. I want you guys to post more. I want you to feel like it's a safe place where you can ask your questions, where you can post your creations. Don't be afraid to be a first-time poster. Sometimes that can be intimidating and scary because you're worried what kind of feedback you're going to get. But I can promise you 100% that I'm not going to allow anybody in the group to be mean at all. Period. That's part of the rules, and you have to agree to that when you sign up for the group. So you're only going to get love and support, and you know, we're going to uplift each other and enjoy each other's company on our jewelry making journey. So please come and join the group if you haven't yet. Please use my affiliate link if you want to create, or not to create, but to purchase these exact beads or any of the Market Fresh minis that are available from Jesse James Beads. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel. Kyla says, what's the name of your group? It is the Sarah Ellis Designs Community. And there is a link to it on the Sarah Ellis Designs page. And I can post a link for it. I'll post a link for it and my affiliates links and everything here when we get done. Just give me a few minutes. So that is that. I appreciate you guys so much. You have no idea how much I love you guys. So enjoy your Friday. If you want to see more of me, I've got another great group for you to join. You can catch me at 4 p.m. this afternoon. That's Eastern time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, over on the Jewel Loom group. I'm having a Facebook Live at 4 p.m. We have 2 Facebook Lives a week with Jewel Loom on Wednesdays and on Fridays. And this afternoon, Juliana will not be joining me. She has some things that she needs to take care of, but I am going to be doing Facebook Live there. Currently, we're working on a ring project, and we're adding the loops and all of the fun movement to our rings. So come hang out. It's all right if you missed the beginning of the project. You can always catch the replays and catch up with the rest of the group. It's a monthly project, so we stretch it out for the entire month. All right, guys, that's it. I know I've done a lot of talking. I'll go now. Have a great afternoon. I'll see some of you guys later. If not, catch Maker Mystery on Saturday. And if not, you can catch me again, same time, same place, right here next week. Bye, guys.